I'm gonna sing to my sisters.
My brothers, keep the faith. When the storm blows and the wind comes, go on at a steady pace. When the battle is fought and the victory is won, we can all shout together, we have overcome. We can talk to the Father, talk to the Son, when we make it to the promised land.
We're gonna walk together, little children. You don't ever have to worry. Through this world of trouble, we're gonna love one another. Gonna take our fellow man by the hand. Try to help him to understand that we can all be together forever and ever when we make it to the promised land.
Our Bible reads, "Thou shalt not be afraid of the terror by night, or the arrows that fly by day, nor for the pestilence that waiteth in the dark, nor for the destruction that waiteth in the noonday hour."
You know this world is not our home, no, we are only just passing through. Our trail was all made up, my friends, way beyond the blue. We're gonna do the very best we can. While we're traveling through this land, we can all be together forever and ever when we make it to the promised land. We're gonna walk together, little children. You don't ever have to worry. Through this world of trouble, we're gonna love one another. Gonna take our fellow man by the hand. Try to help him to understand that we can all be together forever and ever when we make it to the promised land. Gonna make it to the promised land. Our children gonna make it to the promised land. Walking hand in hand. We're gonna make it to the promised land. Make it to the promise, make it to the promise. Gonna make it to the promised land. And we can all be together forever and ever when we make it to the promised land.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to Sundays at 5. Welcome to you here, and for you that are tuning in, we welcome you to this service, which is an opportunity for us to gather in a much quieter and much contemplative format than our other services. And so we hope that you will take this time and join us and center yourself. I want to start by grounding us in a moment of centering. The great gift of centering is that it is an approach to quietness and stillness that can be known and can be held. There are times when quietness and stillness can be disorienting. If it's quiet in here, or it can be a foreign thing. But an intentional act of centering is our way to approach and invite quiet and stillness, to invite it and welcome it as a friend, so that we can be open to hearing anew, feeling anew, discovering anew. And so I want you, and I know you probably always are familiar with how centering begins, becoming aware of your breath, breathing, becoming aware of your feet, feeling it move, aware of your body, and then finding that very center of your body. For some, it might be the navel, but you sort of begin to feel where the very center of both your physical and your spiritual being. We're talking about balance. You want that quietness and stillness to have a place to take root. And then, I don't know if you're familiar with it, it's called like a plumb line. You can sort of follow your body from the top of your head to the soles of your feet. Almost a line traveling. And as you continue to invite, you observe yourself, see yourself, making peace. And then, let's sit with that silence, sit with that quiet and stillness, and welcome it.
Sometimes when I pray, I'm quiet. Sometimes when I pray, I sing. Sometimes I try to hear you. Sometimes I know you're listening. And I pray now that you hear me. And I pray now that I hear you. I feel sometimes that you're with me. Are you? You tell me to keep my eyes open and to open my heart just as wide as I can. You tell me not to close my thinking. That's what I hear when I'm listening. And I pray now that you lead me. And I pray now to understand. I feel sometimes that you're with me. Are you? Guide my way, give me shade in the heat of the day. Be my refuge, be my shield. Teach me how to do your will. Be my rock, guide my way, give me shade in the heat of the day. Be my refuge, be my shield. Teach me how to do your will. And I pray now that you hear me. And I pray now that I hear you. I feel sometimes that you're with me. Are you?
Tonight's service is our service of testimonies, transformation through stories. I was listening to the author, Margaret Atwood, who was being interviewed last week, and the interviewer was asking her about stories. Why do we tell stories? What's so important for stories? And she said something so powerful that I just thought was very relevant for tonight. And she went through a whole lot of things, but what she was getting at was that stories are about survival. The earliest ways that stories came about was because people wanted to tell people about their experience, especially if it meant that they could be harmed or something could happen to them. And so they would tell stories to each other and to children to protect them. So in some ways, stories were about survival. If I told you about how I escaped harm by going that way, or how I avoided that. So it got me to thinking about growing up in the tradition I grew up, which every Sunday we had a testimony service. And people would tell stories. And when Margaret Atwood said it's for our survival, I remember all of those testimonies about illness, about loss, about grief. And it only occurred to me in hearing just the other week, those stories were told so that maybe I would survive. They told it for a reason. And so we really want to make room for story, for hearing stories, because that story, not only for the person who's testifying to it, there's a reason that they're doing it, but even for each of us hearing it, that it might be the wisdom we need for our survival. And so I welcome Gingy Ward to come, who will give testimony, give her story for her, but for us. Thank you.
If it's okay, I'll just talk from here instead of from there.
What I want to talk about is how I came to believe differently. I grew up in this church, and I had what I thought was very strong faith, but I had a really strong will, and I was pretty sure that I knew what was right for the world, and that if I could just make my will work out, that the world would be fine. And I was pretty sure I knew what was right for almost everyone I knew. And I was going to make that happen. And I worked so hard. I worked in my marriage, my first marriage, which fell apart. And probably at the time, I thought it was all his fault. But perhaps there was some blame on my side, because I spent the whole time trying to make my will work. I had a vision of what the partnership should look like, and I spent the entire time trying to make that a reality. And I almost drove myself crazy, and I was so miserable. I went through so much suffering because I couldn't make it work. And I kept picking up pieces and doing more and more, taking care of the house and the yard and the children and paying all the bills and going to work every day and just doing more and more, until I had this tight grip on everything. And I was afraid if I let go at all, that things would just fly apart into chaos and the world would end. My fear was so great. And I was pretty sure that I was fine, and that, I just needed to fix my ex-husband. And luckily, I went, because he had some addiction problems, I went to Al-Anon. And I should have really been in CA maybe, but I couldn't get to the group easily, and it wasn't a great fit for me. So I went to an Al-Anon group, and I begged them and said, my husband is not an alcoholic, but his mother was. Does that count? Can I please stay here? And they said, absolutely. So for 3 years, I went to Al-Anon thinking that if I went there, he would get fixed. And it still didn't work, What was I doing wrong? So at some point, it came to me that I was holding so tight to everything and trying my best to hold it together to make it work so that things wouldn't fly off into chaos. And I actually, at one afternoon, I was walking on my mail route, and I just let go. I just let go. And it was amazing. Life didn't end. The world, and there was no flaming lava, and I didn't get struck by lightning. It was, things just went on. And I thought I was going to float up into the sky. I was so much lighter. I just let go. I had been carrying so much misery and so much suffering. And I don't think I would have been able to let go had it not been for 12 steps. I truly had been working the steps, trying, although for the wrong reason. But when I realized that I could change myself and let go, things really began to change. And then my prayer life changed completely because I had been praying for my will to work in the world. And I was telling God what I wanted, and would he please just, or she, could you just make that happen? And, luckily God was probably laughing really hard at me, going, wow, just let it go. And so when I finally did, things did really change. And I count it an incredible piece of luck that I was able to really work changes in my life. And I ended up not being able to stay married to my ex-husband, which was sad. But I did get to hang out with my children a lot, which was great. And he really didn't want to be with them. He just didn't feel capable. So I got to raise the kids. And I got my life. And then much later, I met Mike, who is like this lovely joy bringer. So I'd like to end by just reading a poem called Changing Everything. The devil is not the only one in the details. All those angels who used pins for their dance floors are in here now. Since who uses pins anymore? We're crammed like sardines. There's no room to shrug, much less to shimmy. And all of us crammed into, wrapped like mummies in our lists of things to do to fix the world. Feeding, sheltering, protecting. No more meat, drink more water, do more exercise, meditate. Check, check, check. So much to do, and so much left undone. But this morning, I woke up to snuggle with my husband and hold him close until each of my cells reverberated with joy. And I am here. And suddenly, all around both of us, there was a movement like swirling wings, like angels dancing out into the wide open. Thank you.
Thank you, Gingy. I invite us to silence and holding the story that we just heard. Thank you. Gingy, I want to thank you for trusting us to hold your story. Thank you for sharing it. And I was just occurred to me, we're about to go into a moment of reflection, but even just personally, it's probably, I resonate so much with that story, 3 words is not fair to try to reflect on it. So we can share notes at some point. But at this moment, I want us to hold Gingy's story. And this is a moment of reflection. And we say on our bulletin, using 3 words, how does the testimony engage your own sacred story? I know that might be challenging. I'll start off just to get, because if I don't, I won't discipline myself. But I've been trying to think about it. But it is also a testimony that I share, and I just say there, freedom in release. Freedom in release. That is all of what Gingy shared resonated with me, and it might be the very reason why I stand here with you now as a minister, because I too had to find my way to that kind of release. You're welcome to share your reflection on the testimony we heard. go into a time of prayer, petitioning in prayer. There is a lot to pray for, always. But I want to open us in prayer, and then I want to invite you in prayer, light a candle. I love the ritual of lighting the candle once we say the prayer. There's something about operationalizing the prayer in flame or in light. There's something powerful about that notion. So if you would join me in prayer. Great Spirit, wisdom, the fount of all peace, gathered in this room are people who have an intention, sharing our stories, our wisdom, hearing and holding one another. And in that spirit, in this moment, we assume a posture of prayer, being bold enough to call into being the things that we wish for, but having the wisdom to know that we are held if it doesn't. And we are connected anyway. And so in this moment, we lift our voices in prayer. We call them out, speaking our truth. O Lord, hear our prayer. I lift up the Drozdick family as they grieve the loss of their mother and their wife. May the peace of God console and comfort them.
I offer a prayer of deep gratitude for this time that allows deep listening among all of us, and for the trust that goes with it in the sharing. I'm so grateful for people in this community who nurture those kinds of things in each one of us.
I want to offer a prayer for a child in North Carolina whose parents gave this child a boy's name. And now this child, who is in the 5th grade, has come to the realization that she is female, even though her body doesn't match that. And this child's parents are not particularly supportive. So I pray for this child that she would feel loved and feel integrated and feel honored for who she is and how she expresses herself.
Lord, in your mercy, hear these prayers, spoken and unspoken. Put your strong arm of protection and endow us with your wisdom and comfort us with your love. Amen.
Do a tune by a local boy here.
May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every rung, and may you stay forever young.
Forever young. Forever young. May you stay
forever young. May you grow up to be righteous. May you grow up to be true. May you always know the truth and see the light surrounding you. May you always be courageous, stand upright and be strong, and may you stay forever young.
May your hands always be busy, and may your feet always be swift, and may you have that strong foundation when the winds of change shift. May your heart always be joyful, and may your song always be sung, and may you stay forever young.
Forever young. Forever young.
May you stay.
I want to thank Gingy for her wonderful testimony tonight. Thank you for trusting us and sharing it. I want to thank the trio. You all have blessed us so much. Thank you. Thank all of you for joining us for Sundays at 5. Next week, I hope that you will join us. We will be welcoming some of our Jewish siblings and Muslim siblings for a conversation. The conversation, because Easter, Ramadan, and Passover converge this year in the same season. And it's not going to happen again for another 30-something years. We're coming together and we're having a conversation, an interfaith conversation about redemption from our various perspectives. Redemption, as we were having a conversation, it flows through each of our traditions in very specific and powerful ways. And so we're going to come together with our siblings and talk about that from our various perspectives. Please join us for that powerful conversation, talking about a powerful principle of redemption. So, as you leave this place, may you know the peace and love and comfort of the divine will that holds you fast, that centers you even when all around us is storm and chaos. Sometimes the storm and chaos must occur, but you can be still in the midst of them. That is my prayer for you in this season. Amen.
Amen.